Yo, good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. Welcome to yet another race in the Speed Souls Dark Souls 1 Prepare to Die edition All Bosses Tournament. My name is Catalyst Z. I am here with my colleague Alibaba. What's up, Ali?
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm gonna be co-commentating with Kata today for what should hopefully be a very exciting race.
Absolutely. We have two matadors of Dark Souls 1, I would say. We have the number one seeded player in the tournament, Regol, not Slayer, just Regol, against Saastutin, an absolute veteran when it comes to the amount of time he spent playing the game, an OG. He is the number 17 seed, but don't let that deceive you because his skill is way above that way above that number. And this should hopefully be another very close race. Both runners have the potential to definitely attack the 110 RTA barrier and maybe get even below it. We might see some of the fastest runs that we've had so far in the tournament. And I think without a further ado, if the runners are ready, we can get the race time room going and begin this race.
And we're off. Nice. So I suppose we'll start with the why they started with the starting class and gifted they did. So they started with Thief because the Thief starts with the Master Key, and we're gonna need that to open some doors. And they started with Black Fire Bombs so that we can kill Asylum pretty quickly here at the start.
That's right. Both runners are going to be doing probably a very similar, if not the exact same route, so it should be a little bit easier to actually keep tabs of who's ahead and behind. I'm curious as to how many RTA strategies both runners are going to be introducing, because normally this run is timed via in-game time for the leaderboards, but the races here in the tournament are timed via real time, and as such, some strategies like quitting out on doors to skip animations and whatnot are gonna be foregone because obviously quitting out of the game into the main menu loses quite a bit of time when it comes to real time. So I'm curious to see what changes the runners are going to make. And so far both of them are very much even. We have a red color with Sass, which, well, stands out quite a bit.
Yeah. And one thing you'll notice that both runners do when they start sprinting is they do upper body animations such as toggling. And the reason for that is because when you toggle when you start sprinting, it decreases the amount of time it takes to get to full speed. And it only saves about a frame or so every time you do it, but that can add up to about 1 or 2 seconds throughout the run if you do it consistently. So yeah,
So
it's
for
kind of
example
meant.
here, yeah, sorry, I was just going
Yeah.
to mention that normally here is where you would see a quit out on these doors, for example, neither runner opting to go for it, which
Yes.
is very wise because it will lose them time. So we are
Yeah.
neck and neck. Right after leaving Undead Asylum, both runners are most likely going to head to the Undead Burg and towards the Undead Merchant. One little skip you see here, and also diverging pathing. One Sass going to the left of the well, Regal, my man, going to the right. I respect that decision. But yeah, both runners are right now approaching Undead Burg so that they can go to the Undead Merchant and do some business. What are they going to be doing there, Alibaba?
Yeah, so they're going to be first and foremost buying the rapier, which is going to be very important for a glitch called move swap, and the bow, and some arrows. And then they're going to be performing a glitch called prompt swap. And what they do is they place their mouse cursor over the kind of arrows in the merchant menu, and you press A or X on the controller and left click at the same time. And what that does, it brings up the confirmation box to buy an item, but switches over to another set of items in the merchant menu, which allows you to buy items that you can't afford, which is what they're going to do for the bottomless box here, as you just saw Sass did.
We go with a little mistake, getting a little bit too hasty, walking out of the merchant's dialogue range, losing a little bit of time. So right now, both runners are going to be approaching the second boss, but before then, they are going to use the master key that Thief provides them with to open up these doors here to access Gold Pine Resin. Gold Pine Resin is really good early game, as it adds a lot of damage to the Bandit Knife, and the next boss is conveniently also weak to lightning, so they will be able to hopefully dispose of him rather quickly. There's a little bit of RNG to the fight, but I'm sure both runners are experienced enough to not really have any issues with it. Also, great jump over the barrel from both runners right there. Um, it's always nice to see them not pulling Mr. Brood.
Yeah, and one cool thing with this fight is that the bandit's knife deals quite a bit of bleed damage, so when you mix that with the gold pine resin, this fight is actually pretty quick if it goes well.
Yeah, if you keep on looking at the Hellfire, you're gonna be able to see the proc in the second combo, like right there. A lot of extra damage done with one of the hits. Really good fights for both of the runners. So next up is gonna be the Hellkite Drake Bridge. Some people say that it's the dragon from Shrek. I'm not quite sure, but I am sure about the fact that both runners are going to be cutting the tail. The reason they want to cut the tail is not only for consistency, because they want to survive. The best way to get around the dragon would be to just run underneath him, but that's going to be inconsistent and you might just get burnt to a crisp. If you taunt him and then cut the tail as well, which they're going to do with the Bandit Knife and Resin, they're gonna obtain the Drake Sword. And the Drake Sword is really important because the next boss is Iron Golem. And Iron Golem is quite a tank for early game. And without the Drake Sword, it would be very, very difficult to actually get past that boss. So this is gonna be, that's basically the main reason they're getting this weapon, is basically just for Iron Golem, but it is very, very important.
Yeah, Iron Golem would be pretty much impossible to kill with Bandit's Knife. At least quickly, anyway.
That's correct.
So we're coming up onto one of the most well-known skips in this game, which is the Sense Gate skip. So obviously, if you've played this game casually, you'll know that in order to open the Sense Gate and get into Sense Fortress, you have to ring both bells, one after Gargoyles and then one after Quelaag and Blighttown. But on these stairs, there's actually a death cam you can trigger with the riposte animation, and that's normally the camera you get when you're falling to your death. And in that state, the game basically thinks you're dead, so it stops loading new assets like gates, for example. But because both of these runners are not going to be dead, they can just run into Sense Fortress and quit out to reset to the normal camera and bypass having to ring the bells and get into Sense Fortress early.
Yep. Both runners are still going to actually ring the bells later on because they need to open the pit in Firelink Shrine that leads to Firelink Altar. But right now, it is way more beneficial to skip those parts because they do not have yet a very powerful weapon in their possession. And as such, it is better to get into the mid-game into Anolondo, obtain the Dragon Tooth, which both the runners are going to do, and then come back later to kill Gargoyles and kill Quelaag, ring both the bells, and save a lot of time that way.
Yeah, and another benefit is that you get the Lord Vessel early, which means you don't need to go down to Blighttown twice, because you can rest a Daughter of Chaos Bonfire, which is
Absolutely,
nice.
that's a big one, yeah. Because this is obviously all bosses, so they are going to be coming back to isolate later on as well, in the very late game to finish off some things. So what they're also going to do here, and that this is like a new addition to this route, which was discovered just about a month ago. There's a strategy that we're going to talk about later on that requires the runners to use the Soul Spear. So what they're both going to do is actually free Logan to obtain that powerful sorcery. So I'm curious to see how it's going to go for both of them here. They're going to use the Drake Sword R2. Alright, neither of them going for a quit out.
Yeah, Sass did not get his insane fall-off strat, unfortunately.
Yeah, but Sass... Yeah, both runners getting lucky and not getting an insane instant follow-up from the Lizard. So that way they were able to open the cage for Logan and then also finish his dialogue, which is necessary to continue his quest line. You want him to move to Firelink Shrine, but you're going to be able to buy the Soul Spear from him. Nice job from both runners.
Yeah, and they're gonna quit out here for the boulder. In older routes, when you had the ring of favor and protection early, you would actually just normally backstep through the boulder, but with this health, you would just die, so you just quit out instead.
Yeah, it might seem weird as we talked about the RTA strats and trying to not quit out as often, but yeah, this is basically the only other way around it would be to wait for the boulder to pass by, and that's even slower than just quitting out.
Yeah, it's way slower. Oh, and both runners performed the move swap glitch, which basically the way that works is in this game, the only weapon they allow you to two-hand in your left hand is the bow. So if you queue up the two-handed of the bow in the left hand during an animation, like a jump, for example, and then switch it out for another weapon at the right time, it will actually two-hand that weapon in your left hand, which normally isn't supposed to happen. And so the bow obviously has an R1, but it doesn't have a run and attack or anything like that. So the game takes that information from the right hand weapon, which, as we've seen already, is a very fast double attack, which will be very useful in this run.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's a running attack, it's a plunging attack, and a rolling attack that is taken from the right-hand weapon, which is the rapier for both runners. So you're gonna be able to see the running attack here. Bob being a little bit unlucky for a regoal. And both runners are now going to try to dispose of the Iron Golem boss. So what they're going to do is they're going to try to inflict 400 damage in a specific way to below his knee level. That's going to make him stagger. And if they do it just correctly with the correct setup, what's going to happen is... Alright, that's a little bit scuffed for Sass, but he should get the stagger. Both runners getting the stagger, and as you can see, with Golem being perpendicular to the edge, he just falls off with another 200 damage dealt to beneath the knee level. So that was really good for both runners. Regol getting a little bit better RNG there.
Yeah, so Golem can actually stomp sometimes, which lets you get a really free one cycle, but if that doesn't happen, then it actually does require a bit of strategy and a lot of practice to get good at. It's a
Yeah,
pretty
it was really
technical fight.
nice that we got to see both the scenarios there. And you can see that Regol managed to pull ahead just by a little bit, even though he got blocked by Bob. So now comes up a pretty scary part of the run. Both runners are actually confirmation box tubing their soul. It's not very important, you don't have to do it, but it allows for some comfier menuing, I suppose. And also for a backup later on if they messed up some other menuing. So what they do is essentially something similar as with the move swap. They queue up using a soul while they're stuck in an animation, soul being the one they just obtained from Iron Golem. And if that gets consumed, they obtain the souls as in the currency that they can level up with and purchase items through. And as that action is queued up, they will go into their inventory and use a consumable. Once that happens, they still get the confirmation box for the soul, but it actually doesn't get consumed when it's confirmed. Instead, what gets consumed is the Estus Flask charge, or the consumable that they selected.
Yeah, so you cheat the game, basically.
Basically, yes. So, also, Anolondo is a pretty scary part right now, since they both go through the rafters, which is great. They do not take the Anolondo bonfires. If either of them died there on the rafters, they would have been sent back all the way back to Undead Parish, which would have most likely resulted in a loss already, seeing how neck and neck these runners are. But it's not really over yet, because not only is the infamous Ornstein and Smoke boss fight coming up, which is possibly the hardest fight in the entire run, and can go very awry if they don't decide to cooperate. But also they have to run to the cathedral, and they might get memed by some spears or something. So there's a lot of stuff that can happen within the next 2 minutes or so that might even decide this race.
Yeah, and you notice that both runners picked up the Ring of the Sun's Firstborn. That's for the glitch called ESM later, which is a very technical glitch. So I'll explain that a bit later. And they level up 15 endurance and 27 strength, because that's the minimum strength requirement to be able to two-hand the Dragon Tooth, which is the weapon that runners are gonna get shortly.
Yep. One trick that we're gonna see the runners do here, hopefully, is do a little quit out off the elevator. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna jump off the elevator on a stable ground and then quit out. Again, it might seem counterintuitive, but what ends up happening is they are able to leave the elevator. You can see it on Sasa's screen right now. And they quit out before the elevator gets to the final position, so it doesn't get docked, and it will be back at the bottom position. So they can continue running towards ONS, but later on, when they have to run back up from the Darkmoon Tomb bonfire, they don't have to wait for the elevator, they don't have to call it again. So it saves time, even RTA. So again, while it might seem counterintuitive that they're quitting out in an RTA race, oh, Sas getting hit there with an early roll. Both runners got the same RNG, funnily enough. Yeah, while it might seem counterintuitive, it is actually saving a little bit of time. So Sas opting for the heal. I respect that decision. It's better than actually getting hit by a spear here and then having to return to the Darkmoon Tomb bonfire. Healing only loses about 3 seconds, definitely worth the decision.
Yeah, otherwise it's a pretty long run back from Darkmoon Tomb.
So let's see what the Silver Knight does. Again, we get to see diverging paths. Sas having to use the Drake Sword R2, the weapon art, to get him out of the way, rather. Regol getting a little bit better RNG. Both runners are going to take the safety Ominous Bonfire. Again, a very wise decision, as skipping it does save a decent amount of time. But at the same time, dying to ONS, which is definitely possible even if the runners play really, really well, would mean that they get sent all the way back to the Darkmoon Tomb bonfire, and that would probably result in a loss.
Yeah, ONS is definitely, in my opinion, the most RNG heavy fight in this route. And in a normal attempt, obviously, you would just go skip the bonfire and just hope you get a good fight. But in a race setting, you definitely want to take it.
Yep.
And both runners picked up the Dragon Tooth.
Yep, I was going to say that they pick up the Dragon Tooth, which is going to be the main weapon of choice for most of the speedrun. Except for sorceries later on, as we mentioned. And Sas pulling a little bit ahead again, because he managed to dupe the Homeward Bone, so he did the same trick that we explained with the Soul earlier. And he managed to pull it off the pickup animation of the item, while Regol messed it up and had to use a different animation. Okay, both runners probably going to heal up. Yep, this allows you to survive some very edge cases that you normally wouldn't. Failed move swap on the side of Sas. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. There we go, it happened again. Now he's
gonna
entering
go for the arena move swap.
Yep.
Nice. Oh no, he failed it. I just quit out, it's fine.
So, okay, Regol also not manipulating Ornstein around the pillar too well. Smo seems to be doing the jump attack. Yeah, he's gonna get clipped. But overall, a pretty good phase 1 for Regol. Phase 2 should be much easier, because he's gonna be able to just hopefully chain stagger Smo. Meanwhile, we're looking at phase 1 for Sas. Getting a little bit of a jumpy Ornstein, a little bit unlucky with the lightning opener. Okay, perfect manipulation of Smo, going towards him to force him to jump away by Sas. Meanwhile, Regol on the left side of your screen, disposing of Smo in phase 2 by chain stunning him without any issues. That's great. Let's hope that Sas will be able to do the same, getting a little bit unlucky jump away, but no lightning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, you might be wondering why Sas decided to enter the arena and do the move swap in there. That's because he was being followed by the big sentinel, by the big guardian. So if he kept on trying to move swap before the fight, he would have probably been hit. And that's why he attempted to do it inside of the arena.
Yeah, and the one thing I wanted to mention was you got to see in that fight what the main strength of move swap really is, and that is it allows you to take really heavy weapons that normally are extremely slow, and weapons you normally wouldn't want to use in a speedrun, but it lets you take them, make them really fast, and then deal a lot of damage with them.
Yeah, and as Ali also correctly pointed out earlier, the thrusting weapon, or rather the thrusting moveset of the rapier, hits in 2 ticks as well, so you're essentially getting a double hit every time you do a running attack. And the damage is taken from the Dragon Tooth, but it also must be pointed out that the stamina drain is also taken from the Dragon Tooth. So every time the runners, at least for now, until they have more endurance, every time they do a running attack, they're fully committing. Like, they're not going to be able to roll immediately afterwards for a little bit. So they need to make sure that they're not going to get hit. Speaking of not getting hit, Regol getting pretty unlucky there with the Hollow Room, but seems like he managed to get through, which is great. That would have been a horrible death. Both runners heading towards the Gargoyles, because like we mentioned, they will need to ring the bells anyway, and of course it's all bosses, so you need to kill the Gargoyles at some point.
Yeah, and we saw that Regal move swapped off the getting off the ladder animation there, and we can see here with Gargoyles, they're pretty much just completely melt with Dragon Tooth, because the Dragon Tooth as a heavy weapon deals an insane amount of poise damage, so you stagger them in one hit, and you just deal an insane amount of damage anyway.
Don't think that this run's gonna get boring and that the runners are gonna steamroll over every boss like this. Not every boss can actually be staggered, so there's gonna be some legit fights, okay?
Oh yeah, there'll definitely be some legit fights.
You see the runners doing a lot of menuing usually. They're gonna try to optimize it in such a way that it happens on ladders or doing fog gates or doing warps to not lose any time while running around. Because unlike in, for example, Dark Souls 3, in this game you cannot open the menu while sprinting. So anytime you have to menu, you're technically losing time if you're not in an animation. Both runners ringing the bells. On the left side of your screen you will see Regol kick off Lotric. In 2 kicks, very nice. The reason he's doing that is to make sure that the Firelink Alta bonfire is available, because if you don't do that, he's gonna dispose of the Firekeeper, and you could still warp to Firelink, but you wouldn't be able to rest there, and that is actually really important.
Yeah, otherwise you'd need to do like the really long quest line, which, yeah, something you definitely don't want to do in this kind of setting.
Additionally, after Dark Signing, after ringing the bell, both runners are left with no souls, but killing Lotric gives them 1k, which is great for purchasing the Sorcerer's Catalyst here from Rickert. Because neither runner opts to free Griggs in this run. This is the most convenient place where to obtain the Sorcerer's Catalyst, which will be used to cast various sorceries throughout the run.
And we're going to see Regal attempt the Blighton plunges. Basically what happens is when you plunge on kind of a slope surface, the game actually lets you roll out of that animation even when mid-air. And if you time it correctly, you can actually iframe the fall damage that would normally kill you, because obviously Roll has iframes. So we'll see if he does it correctly here. So first plunge down, second plunge a bit more difficult, but should still get it. Alright, nice.
Alright, good stuff from Regal. Let's see if Sas can follow suit as well. It's catching up rather quickly after that unfortunate hollow room from Regal. First one done. And second one as well. Great. So one risk that is there on the second plunge, like timing the rolls at the bottom is not the hardest thing, but if you roll too far to the right on top, what might happen is you can fall into a death box, which kills you instantly. So it's good to see that neither runner got to experience that. So now the Quelaag fight, there's several different openers that can happen that are gonna vary in speed. Let's see what Regal gets, as he's the first one to enter the fight. He gets the jump, he's gonna try to go for a running attack, gets the double hit, very nice. Because the Dragon Tooth is such a big weapon, you can even get hits mid-air there on Quelaag, both of them. Alright, pretty good fight from Regal. Let's see what Sas gets now.
Oh, the perfect opener for Sas.
Yep. The lava spill, he's gonna attack twice, then attack her butt to force farts out, flame farts. Attack to the front, and now, okay, getting the good RNG, no jump away, perfect fight. Fantastic.
Yeah. Literally perfect, by the way. So yeah, the both runners are going to ring the second bell, and they're going to come down and rest at the Daughter of Chaos bonfire, because as Kada mentioned earlier, they do want to come back here to kill all the Izalith bosses and all that, when they're a bit more stronger later.
That's right, you also see Regal killing the Engi and then getting rid of the worms with a firebomb. And now what is very important, because what's coming up is a huge scam on Framt. What Regal had to do and what Sass is doing right now, they're putting the Quilax Soul and the arrows into the bottomless box. So first, the runners are going to place the Lord Vessel with Framt to make sure that they can talk to him and offer him items. You don't want to alienate him here, because if he's hostile, you're not going to be able to dupe now. And what they're going to do is basically a combination of glitches, but it's mainly quantity storage. So what the runners are able to do is they're able to sell Framt more of an item than is stored in the bottomless box. Doing that basically overflows it and ends up duping the item instead. So what you're seeing here is, just look at the bottom right of Regal's screen and look at his soul count going absolutely crazy. This is because the runners use the 999 arrows that they just duped. Or rather, the quantity of 999, and store it, use it in the merchant menu. So that means they have offered more of the Quilax Soul than is in the bottomless box. Not only do they get the souls from that, but also the Quilax Soul gets duped. So then they get to do it again and again and again. They do it 3 times, and as you can see, they have 32 million souls. They will also do the same thing on Soul Spear here, but with the count of 4, so they end up buying more Soul Spears than just 1. Normally, you only get 1 Soul Spear charge from Logan and 1 from Griggs, but with this quantity storage glitch, both runners are able to actually obtain multiple Soul Spears at once. Here they're gonna do a lot of leveling. They do 45 dexterity for increased casting speed. They go 99 intelligence for sorcery damage, of course. They do some extra vitality, attunements to be able to attune enough spells, a bunch of endurance for comfiness, and for air rolls, which we will talk about later. And now they're both going to approach Stray Demon, because what they want to do next is get to the Painted World as soon... Oh, Regal getting a fall, having to do a quit out. This is chance for Sass to catch up. They both want to go to the Painted World, for reasons that we will explain later. And the way to get there is to kill Stray and get the Peculiar Door, so that's what they're going for right now.
I wanted to mention that the reason they got 53 strength specifically is because with the Artorias fight later, with 53 strength, it only takes 2 running attacks. But if you get anything less than that, he just survives with a tiny sliver of health. So that's why they get that number specifically.
Oh, they're like a couple seconds apart. This is fantastic. Literally 3 seconds apart right now. So both runners are actually going to be using the sorceries they just obtained. They also bought the Homing Soul Mass, which I forgot to mention. That spell sucks, but sometimes it can be a little bit helpful, so they're going to use it here. And they opt to use sorceries here because this would be pretty much the longest fight with the Dragon Tooth. And Soul Spear is a little bit faster than you doing this with DT, since they still haven't been able to upgrade that weapon. They're going to be doing that later. And Stray, as you can see, is quite the tank.
Yeah, in the old route before we got Soul Spears, we did do Dragon Tooth Stray, and I can tell you right now that that fight was an absolute nightmare. So it's nice to do Soul Spears
both
now.
runners are literally synchronized right now, because Regal got a little bit unoptimized movement. He wasn't able to get through the hollow smoothly. This is a fantastic race so far. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Don't forget to follow the channel if you're new to the stream. This is only the second round of the winner's bracket, so there's plenty of more races to come in the following weeks. Alright, both the runners are now going to take the arrows away from the bottomless box so that they can use them throughout the run. Or I guess mainly they want to use it for Priscilla. And they're going to be approaching the Painted World.
Yeah, and they do Painted World this early because it's a little bit faster, and also they want to get the Red Sign Soapstone for ESM.
Yep. So Red Sign Soapstone is normally, I think we can start talking about it right now, because there's just going to be a bunch of running, and this is quite important to get down correctly. So the Red Sign Soapstone is normally an online item that would find no use in a speedrun, because the speedrun has to be done offline. However, the item can, through the equip slot manipulation glitch, ESM as Ali called it, can be equipped into a ring slot, and the item ID of the red cyan soapstone is the same ID as the red tearstone ring. The red tearstone ring is one of the most overpowered items in the entire game, because as long as you're under 20% health, it's gonna basically double or triple your damage. What it does is it gives you 50% extra attack rating, but because of the damage calculations, it can result in your damage being increased several times, which is huge. So this way, the runners are going to be able to utilize that effect, even though they never physically pick up the ring. The ring is located in Valley of Drakes, and they never actually go near it, so it saves a lot of time. Obviously, they lose a little bit of time by having to go up this tower, guarded by the crows. But overall, it's a huge, huge time save. So the main reason why this works is because when an item is equipped in this game, the game doesn't check whether the item type, is corresponding to the slot. It only checks the ID number. Both runners doing a small skip to get around the bridge here. Normally, you have to get the annex key, I believe, to get through like a big door to go under the bridge, but this is a prototype level. It's one of the first, or actually it is the first level that FromSoft made for this game. And as such, there's some wonky collision around, and this skip is very easy. So for Priscilla as well, it is a little bit better to use the sorceries here, because you can use the arrow to trigger her. You can lock on to see where she spawns. And with sorceries, you can pretty much find her anywhere. And then just keep on walking towards the exit as you're shooting her.
Yeah, and the reason they shot her with an arrow is because when you aggro Priscilla, she goes invisible, as you saw. And when you lock onto her, if she spawns in a favorable position, you can discover where she is. But if that doesn't happen, then it's nice to just see the arrow floating there, which tells you where she is.
It also helps because, you are using sorcery, so you actually have to, aim.
Yeah.
Alright, so what Sass is doing right now, he's going to do another quantity storage glitch, but this time he's gonna use it on purchasing a pike. And you might be asking, well, commentators, why the heck does he need so many pikes? Well, the reason is that when he purchases 998 pikes here, actually, the game calculates an item's weight by taking the item, or rather quantity per 1 unit, and multiplies it by the quantity of the item. This is a leftover mechanic from Demon Souls. Also, here you can see both runners obtaining the red Tearstone ring. So this is a leftover mechanic from Demon Souls, where things like arrows or upgrade materials had weight. And as such, because they purchase a pike 998 times, actually, 998 times, it is a very heavy pike, and this game has an inventory limit of 10,000 weight units, which a lot of people don't know about, because you're never really going to reach that casually. But it does have a limit, and when you're cramped, as we call it, so you reach that limit, you cannot unequip your rings anymore. And instead you get a glitched out prompt, and you can utilize that glitched out prompt. Nice soul spear from Sass. Hopefully he doesn't get trolled as Mario did. And he is getting trolled by trees. Yeah, that's what you get. Regole being the smart man, just quitting out on the Darkroot door. Getting rid of the aggro trees, being able to sit down and pull ahead. Sass wasted time and then had to quit out anyway. So sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I'll just finish up really quickly. So they will get, or they got a glitched prompt when they were trying to unequip a ring. And for some reason, okay, this is a very complex glitch that we do not completely understand, they are able to essentially equip items of one type into a type that doesn't correspond to it. And this way, because of the ID overlaps, they were able to get the red Tearstone ring.
Yeah. So, using the classic phrase, you trick the game into being confused, basically. And you might also be asking, why are the runners going to kill Hydra right now? Because Hydra is technically not a boss, but the reason is because you need to free Dusk in order for the golem in the Duke's Archives to drop the broken pendant, which is the item you need to go to the DLC and kill the bosses there. And obviously to save Dusk, you got to kill Hydra first. pretty trivial fight with soul spears, as you can see.
It takes a little bit of aiming to do, but both runners very capable. Also, what you see them do is drop and then immediately pick up the pike. And this is because, as it was in the glitch state still, they wouldn't have been able to unequip their rings anymore. I mean, they do not want to unequip their RTSR because they do not physically possess it, and they would have to reapply the glitch. But they want to unequip their other ring, and also they want to use the pike later on for something that we will cover later. And dropping it on the ground and then picking it up resets the quantity back to regular 1 from 998.
And they're running back here to summon Dusk. They're going to buy Head and Body from her and perform another glitch. The reason that they summon her, though, is mainly for the Dust Crown, which is the item you get before you enter the DLC if you summon her here. And the reason they want that is for One King, which we'll see later, and also Golfless, which is a trick we'll see later. You can save a cycle on there with Dust Crown.
They're also going to do another quantity storage, and this one's going to be a little bit finicky. So essentially what they're going to do is they store the quantity, and they're going to purchase 998 catalysts, and then they're going to look at it again. So you can look at Regole's screen. He's going to purchase it in body, looks at the catalyst again, and then all of a sudden he's going to have a lot of dragon scales. So what happens there is another pretty complex glitch, which I'll try to really quickly explain, as both runners are going to be heading towards Moonlight Butterfly right now. Essentially, when you try to purchase an item, the game always has to check how many of that particular item it should offer you. And the way it does that is basically takes the max stack of an item, max possible stack, and then subtracts the amount that you have. And because they just purchased 998 catalysts, and the max stack of a catalyst is 1, you cannot stack weapons on top of each other, the game calculates 1 minus 998. So you end up with minus 997 being stored in the memory. Then through the prompt swap glitch, which you saw at the Undead Merchant at the very beginning of the run, they're able to open 2 menus and basically manipulate that stored negative quantity into a drop prompt. And dropping a negative amount of an item results in the item being duped in your inventory instead. So that way they were able to dupe the dragon scale, which they just got from Hydra, and they're going to be able to use that to upgrade their dragon tooth to +5. Normally, upgrading weapons that require dragon scales takes some time because they're not that easy to come by. But here with this dupe, they're going to be able to utilize a very, very strong dragon tooth, basically as soon as on Seath.
Yeah, so some runners like to dupe on the butterfly fight and then go to Seath here instead of going to Sif, as these runners are doing, so they can get DT +5 for Sif. But these runners are true pros, so they're going to use magic instead.
Both of them setting up RTSR. You saw them getting hit on purpose by the Consistent Knight. And another thing you might see right now is that their health pass looks like they're cursed. Well, that's not because they're cursed, but they have the Dust Crown Ring equipped, which they obtained from Hydra. And they managed to... what the ring does is basically halves your HP and giving you some extra castings of spells. But it is really useful for setting up RTSR when it comes to either through fall damage or here with actually taking damage from an enemy.
Yeah, and it's really useful with fall damage because fall damage in this game is percentage based, so no matter what health you have, if you find a setup that works with DCR, it will work with whatever health you have, which is nice. Or whatever your vitality is, I mean.
So both runners hesitating a little bit, and that is costing them the good fight that they could have had. Which I can understand. You don't want to die to Sif, of course, but both runners got really good RNG, and then there were like slight moments of hesitation when they decided to not cast the Soul Spear, and because of that, both times they missed, and Sif rather went on a hopping streak. So I mentioned on Dusk that the runners purchased the Hidden Body spell. Basically, the spell is supposed to do exactly what it sounds like it's supposed to do. Sometimes it works better, sometimes it works less, or worse rather. But they attune it here over the Homing Soul Mass, which they won't need anymore. And they're gonna be utilizing it throughout the DLC, sometime in the late game, and also in Duke's Archives here, which is the location that they are approaching at the moment.
Yeah, so in the optimal routes, you can actually skip the Golden Fog Gate that's normally here before you place a Lord Vessel. But because both runners have to place a Lord Vessel to do ramp dupes, they don't need to do that.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, the skip itself wouldn't actually save time, but doing that skip allows in those routes allows for ringing the bells to be skipped, and mainly the gargoyle bell obviously takes a long time to ring. So being able to completely get past that requirement saves a lot of time. So here you can see Regole being half invisible. That's the hidden body casting. They're gonna kill the blue golem here, the pendant golem, to get the broken pendant, as Alibaba talked about earlier to enter the DLC. And they're going to be attempting the very famous Duke skip to skip the first encounter with Seath. What exactly is the Duke skip, Ali?
Yeah, so the Duke skip's one of the oldest and still one of the skips that saves the most time in this game, at least in as far as all bosses is concerned. Basically, normally with Seath, you have to go into his little arena there and go through an intentional death and go to prison and do a lot of running and stuff. But they land on this elevator railing and they land on this specific floor in Duke's Archives, which just, conveniently lets you skip all of that.
Yeah, perfect from Rigo. Let's see what Sas does. Failing the skip in a race is awful, but neither of them doing it. This is fantastic. Like, failing the skip in a run is a disaster in a regular attempt, but failing the skip in a race is even a bigger disaster because you have to quit out to get back on top. Then you have to wait for the elevator to come back up or decide to quit out. And neither of the runners failing it is just, it's phenomenal. Both runners are playing out of their minds right now. The hardest parts of the run, besides the ONS fight probably, are still coming up in the DLC. But so far, this has been very clean from both runners. Just some minor memes with RTA strategies, really. But other than that, it's been really good.
Yeah, very clean run from both runners so far.
And again, as we talked about earlier, you see both runners utilizing the Dusk Crown Ring to manage to set up fall damage from falling. Fair enough. To get into the RTSR setup to get under 20% health. No manly drop from Regole, opting for a slower option instead. Let's see what Sas does. If he goes for the manly drop, that could help him catch up a little bit. Also not going for the manly drop. Manly drop being a little bit of a different drop to the left there on the crystals. It saves a little bit of time, but it's also a little bit more difficult than just dropping from the platform that they did.
Yeah, Regal's gonna cast Hidden Body here again, which is not required, but it's definitely a lot more, makes it a lot more chill with the clams. And he two-hands his bow because when you enter the sea fight, there's a crystal, the primordial crystal, which basically lets him have infinite, basically regens his health infinitely. But so you have to destroy it usually to fight him. But Regal's just gonna shoot it here, and then he's gonna move swap, and should be a pretty trivial fight.
The one thing to note, you're gonna see Regole attacking basically parallel to Seath. This is because Dragon Tooth is so massive that attacking the core straight on can actually hit his tail instead on the behind. So you're not gonna be able to get the extra damage. I don't know exactly what Sas did there. He attacks a little bit early to ensure he's not gonna hit the tail, but he attacked a little bit too early and didn't get both hits to actually connect with the core. Only one of them did. The other one completely missed because it was way too early, so a little bit of a time loss there. But yeah,
No,
quite a funny fight.
Yeah, both
Um,
runners head into the DLC right now.
Imagine dedicating your entire life to researching this amazing crystal of immortality, and then a half-naked Hollow shows up and shoots it with an arrow that costs 2 souls with a bow that cost him 200.
Yeah, it feels bad, man.
Both runners nailing the Hydra Plunge. Navigating this lake can be actually kind of tricky. The collision there isn't great. Normally, I guess in a casual playthrough, you would want to have the Rusted Iron Ring, which allows you to run through the lake, through the water without being slowed down. Here, the runners just opt to actually go on the sides. And you see Regal picking up the Dusk set for the Dusk Crown, as Alibaba explained earlier. And he's going to be approaching the first of the 4 bosses in the DLC. This one is Sanctuary Guardian. He's going to start by going to the left side. That minimizes the amount of attacks that Guardian can actually do, because there's a wall right behind you. And his AI won't actually allow him to do that. So we have Lightning number 1, Lightning number 2, well rolled. And then a jump, this should be a one-shot, because Guardian is immediately in a counter-hit state after that jump. Perfect. Here we see Sass as well, going to the left, getting a double swipe opener. He's gonna stagger with one running attack, and as you can see, the Dragon Tooth plus RTSR deals insane amount of damage, and he's able to completely annihilate Guardian as well.
Yeah, so we see both runners equipping armor here and some other pieces of equipment, and that's to set up air rolls. I'm not the best at explaining them, but I'll give it my best. So basically, if you've played the remaster version of this game, or if you've seen speedruns, you'll know that the kind of weight ratio for setting up air rolls is a lot more lenient. In this game, it's very precise, so you need very specific armor setups to do it. And basically, what it is kind of like a floating point error, where basically the game registers you as mid-rolling, but it doesn't stop you from being able to roll mid-air. So you can see that Regal's just going to be able to chain rolls here, and then iframe the full damage that would normally kill you.
Correct. This is really useful because even though we have like other ways of negating fall damage, for example, the fall damage cancel, the plunge is not really available in the next upcoming elevator, for example, because there's nothing to really plunge off of. So air rolls allow you to utilize new strategies. All right, Artorias, neither runner going for the safety bonfire. They bought the green blossom, which allows them to get more stamina regen. Regal getting the jumping opener and a 2-shot after that. This fight looks very trivial, but if Artorias decides to troll you, you can die very easily. So a lot of these fights can go really awry if there's going to be some memes, but so far so good. Speaking of memes, here's the flip for Sass. No follow-up flip. He's going to get the buff. And it's one more running attack.
Oh no! Oh, that's
Oh,
really
the
bad.
R1. Yeah.
That's a really long one back. Oh no.
Well, this might be the deciding mistake, and allow me to elaborate what happened there, right? So, first of all, as I mentioned, neither runner actually took the bonfire before Artorias, so now Sass is sent all the way back to Darkroot Garden. His mistake was the fact that while Artorias was buffing, he went for another attack immediately to interrupt him. What he should have done is he should have regenerated stamina to full, then do a running attack to interrupt the buffing animation, and then immediately do another running attack to finish Artorias off. He didn't do it, and because of that, he was forced to dodge an extra attack, and afterwards didn't manage to get a running attack, but got an R1 instead. So, couple of bad decisions, and this probably, I don't want to foreshadow, but this could be the deciding mistake, because this time loss is huge. Meanwhile, what Regal did is he went and warped back to the Darkmoon Tomb and killed Gwendolyn. The reason we don't kill Gwendolyn earlier with this route is because we lack the damage to do it in one cycle. And now he's going to be heading directly towards Calamite, and he's going to do a brand new Golfless strategy. Alibaba, tell us more about it.
Yeah, so this is the kind of the main event of, or what has been the kind of talk of the land for DS1 All Bosses in the last month. And that's the new Golfless setup. So Golfless as a concept is been around for a few years, but it was never really used in this game in all bosses because you needed either the Great Magic Shield, which you get in Duke's Archives, which is pretty slow to get, or a heavy shield like Havel's Shield with normal magic weapon, and you had to do specific setup to kill Calamite. But recently, a member of the community named Androv discovered a way you could do it without needing magic shield. So you can see Regold is going to land in the arena. He's going to do very specific pathing, which will allow him to get under Calamite and hit him with soul spears without taking any damage himself.
So here you see the first one, gets the second one, the third, and the fourth. 8 soul spears are needed for a 2 cycle. He's also gonna utilize a shrugging device, which is a different name for the black separation crystal, to time when Calamite is coming back. This is really important because being too close to where Calamite is flying away while he's starting his next cycle will result in Calamite doing an attack that you cannot punish like this from the blind spot. Let's see if he gets all the 8 hits. Perfect. Well done by Regole. But obviously going back too late is going to result in the inability to get all the Soul Spear casts in on time, so it would actually require more cycles than the optimal 2 with this route. More arrows from Regole here. Getting past this shortcut, immediately going into hidden body for the Hell Bridge. Meanwhile, Sass getting back to Artorias. Getting a dashing opener instead, getting the first stagger, and see, like, if you didn't know what Artorias could do, you would just think, oh, this is such an easy fight, no one can ever die there. Like, literally just 2 running attacks back to back. Can see that Sass is not very happy with how furiously he's tapping the L1 button.
Yeah. And on Regal's side, he is going to now pick up one of the most powerful spells in this game called Dark Bead, which shoots a Stark magic spell which shoots out a bunch of, well, beads naturally. And they deal a lot of damage with the stats that we have and with RTSR. So he's going to kill these 2 bloatheads with Soul Spear. Soul Spear does piercing damage, so you might kill both of them in one cast. Which he did, nice.
Line up, yeah.
And he's going to make his way to Manus now.
Manus' death could definitely make this race a little bit closer again, because Regole didn't take the bonfire for Manus. Which I can't blame him. He seems to be very confident, he's doing really well, playing really clean. He's gonna do a small fog gate skip here, which saves just a little bit of time, but also allows him to set up RTSR from fall damage. Jumps into the fight, he's gonna apply the Green Blossom. Gets a good opener. It's 3.5 running attacks. Gets a jump right after. Let's see what magic happens now. Okay, this should be, well, Regole misplayed that a little bit. That could have been the shotgun into a double running attack, immediate punish. He got the rain instead. But it's no matter, because at this point, what Regole just needs to do is finish up the run clean, don't die too many times, and he'll be fine. He doesn't need to play risky. He doesn't need to perfectly play around the RNG that he gets.
Now that Regole has Dark Bead, basically the only thing he's going to do now is just some cleanup of all of the rest of the bosses in the game with Dark Bead.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but there's still a lot of things that can go awry. For example, this skip right here.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Yeah, the great equalizer, it seems, of the tournament. So this is Fire Sage Elevator clip. Basically, the way it works is when you quit out in this game, your character actually backs away a little bit during the stand-up animation. And the Fire Sage Elevator actually loads in a bit later than the rest of the area. So if you position yourself correctly and quit out a couple of times, you can actually just fall through the ground and plunge on top of Fire Sage here, which Regole did perfectly.
Also, what you notice is that Fire Sage is so stunned because we cause him brain damage with the plunge. No, he's so stunned that he doesn't attack back because the AI trigger is actually at the fog gate. And because you don't enter through the fog gate at all, what ends up happening instead, Fire Sage is just AFK. In the meantime, Sass on the right side of your screen successfully and perfectly completed the Golfless fight. So that is good to see. It's good to see that he's not snowballing into some terrible run he would have to forfeit, keeping his mental game strong. I'm sure that he's really disappointed with that death to Artorias. Centipede Demon on the left side. There should be 2 Dark Beats if aimed correctly. Yeah, you have a lot of damage thanks to the, obviously 9-9 intelligence, but mainly the Crown of Dusk and RTSR naturally. The one item that's missing that would boost sorceries even further is the Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring that you normally obtain from Griggs. But as you can see, it's not necessary whatsoever.
Yeah, so in the older version of Yes Malus, the fight was a bit more precise. You needed to basically have pretty much all your beats hit him, but with Douse Crown you have quite a bit of leniency. So he's running through the, obviously clearly the best looking area in the game, objectively speaking.
What area? I can't see anything anymore.
You're just not well adjusted, man.
Yeah, it's those 10 months of remaster, dude. I'm used to Bologna sauce instead of this beautiful looking bloomy lava. Well, fun fact, in the remaster version on 60 FPS, you might not actually lose your eyesight, but you probably lose your hearing because the sound effect that the lava makes is played at twice the speed, so that's not fun. But yeah, Rigo's gonna be approaching Bed of Chaos. He's healing, which makes sense. Wants to play it safe in case he gets a Firestorm, which I respect. Especially in the position that he's in. I'm not sure if he's looking at chat, or if he's completely blind, doesn't know whether he's ahead or behind. But
Yeah,
dying to
he's
Bed
not.
of Chaos would be pretty bad.
Yeah, he's not looking at chat or anything. Said beforehand.
Ah, I see, okay. So he's making the right decisions. Then again,
So
I have seen my fair share of runs coming down to the second with basically a photo finish. So in those races, using that Twin Humanity would have cost him.
yeah, now we're coming up to what is clearly Kata's favorite trick in the game, which is Toki bombs. So basically, normally with Bed of Chaos, there's you'll see a little barrier protecting the path to get to the actual boss, and to remove it, there's these like 2 orbs on the left and right side of the arena that you need to destroy. But that's slow, so Regal's gonna position himself in a specific spot here and throw fire bombs with a specific aim of the bow, and I will just destroy them from here, which is very quick.
Perfect throws.
Yeah, no Kata bombs, feels good, man.
Hey, stop. Got talkie bombs on the left, fire stage elevator clip on the right. This is causing me physical pain right now. Alright, so Bed of Chaos is dead. That's great to see. Because, like, dying there would have been the one possible equalizer for sure. They would have pretty much been almost equal. Sass technically would have actually been in the lead. Well, not really, because he would still have to kill the bosses instead of just running back. But it would have been really close. So now, the last thing to clean up here in Isolate for Regol is... Good to see that Sass also not dying to Fire Stage Elevator Clip, by the way. But the last thing to clean up is Ceaseless Discharge, which normally should be dead at this point. But thanks to Fire Stage Elevator Clip, you don't have to worry about him. Of course, there's also the Lava Skip that a lot of people know about. Regol sets up RTSR with a little bit of fall damage from the slope. Does a little bit of menuing on the fog gate, which will allow him to do arrows easily next time he has to do them on the way to Nito. And it should be just an easy 2-shot with Dark Beat. Really nice centipede from Sass. 2-shot for Regal on the left side as well. He's gonna Dark Sign. Hopefully not too early. It's definitely one of the things that you can do that we haven't mentioned is the runners try to always teleport away from a fight before the victory achieved screen appears. Because if you don't do that, the prompt for confirming your homeward board or dark sign is just gonna get closed. So you want to do it as early as possible to maximize the time save, of course, but doing it too early is going to mean that the victory achieved screen doesn't show up in time, and that means the boss actually stays alive, and they would have to run back and kill him again.
Yes, that's correct. So now Regal's making his way to the catacombs, which I don't want to jinx anything, but it's been a pretty rough area for people in the tournament so far, so hopefully it will treat both runners well in this race. Wonder if he's going to go for the... Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if he's going to go for the... I wonder if he's going to go for the insane RTA strat of not quitting out here, but I think he will. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Again, I respect that. I mean,
Yeah,
we
so
saw how it went for Sass when he decided to not quit out on the Darkroot Garden, on the Darkroot Forest door, so yeah.
Yeah, you can save a few seconds out here by not quitting out, but those skeletons can block you at the door, which is pretty monk shake.
Looks like all of this is pretty trivial, just navigating the game, but I mean, it is also possible, even with this health bar, actually dying to bone wheels here or something, or losing a bunch of time because you would have to heal up afterwards because you might die to the fall damage from jumping into Pinwheel's arena. Regal, as you saw, masterfully dodged the bone wheel there, but if the bone wheel hugs you from behind, there's two things you can do about it. Absolutely nothing, or like it, so you pick your poison. Massive disrespect on Pinwheel, missing one of the small beats and still one shot.
Yeah, and one thing that can happen on the air rolls you saw that Regal did was basically the skulls, the floating skulls, when you they basically when they spawn they just move in random directions. There seems to be nothing that specifically determines their movement. So when you do the air roll, sometimes if you get bad RNG, you can just land on top of them, which completely ruins your setup, and you can die from that sometimes.
Regal not going for the small fog gate skip here, so there's a little jump that you can do underneath this fog wall. Saves like 5 seconds or so. Again, especially if he knew what position he was in via the Sass, it would have been the wise decision to not go for it because it's absolutely not necessary. So Nito can be also a little bit tricky. Again, most likely not, but we saw what happened with Artorias. Most likely he's not going to be tricky, and he ended up being for Sass. So Nito can do a screaming attack, and that can kind of mess up your rhythm, because you're going to try to, or Regal's going to try to anyway, just kill him with Soul Spear casts. And if he gets unlucky, he's not going to be able to just keep on casting 4 times and kill him from 100 to 0, but he's gonna have to interrupt and either roll or actually block, believe it or not, block the scream attack. So we'll see what happens. He is two-handing, so he would go for the blocking strat. But so far no scream, so it seems like we're not gonna see it here. Alright, that was perfect Nito. Coming up next for him is gonna be 4 kings. There's not gonna be 4 of them. Just a little spoiler. That's why he's already equipping the Dusk Crown Ring so that he can set up the RTSR on the New Londo elevator.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll explain now is the seal skip that Regal's about to do. So normally with 4 kings, in order to get to them you need to drain the water by going to Ingward and getting the key to the seal and doing all that. But there's actually a glitch you can perform called slope quit out, where basically when you land on a slope in this game, even on ones that would cause a lethal fall, it actually delays your death by a little bit. And if you quit out during that time, the game will actually spawn you where you landed. So he's going to do that, which will allow him to go out of bounds, which bypasses draining the water and all that. We'll see if he gets it first, though.
He's gonna try to get to the very edge with a running attack from the rapier. Let's see, the so-called Ivan setup. Okay, he overdid it. He attacked way too heckin' late there. I think at least, so he didn't get the seal skip there. Yeah,
it's
so
pretty
he's
late.
just gonna try to nudge himself to the edge. Alright, there we go. He survived. So now it should be just a very simple run up to 4 kings. And what is cool about 4 kings, or with all enemies in this game actually, is that you can still attack them when they're dead and deal damage to them. So normally that doesn't matter because the enemy is dead, but what actually ends up happening here is that the individual king is dead, he's dying, because his health bar got depleted, but the cumulative shared health bar isn't depleted yet. However, attacking the king will keep on dealing damage to the cumulative health bar. And we have so much damage with RTSR, Darkbeat, and 99 Intelligence and the Crown of Dusk that Regol, if done correctly, he's going to be able to actually do this in one cycle. Equips the crown now, and 1 Darkbeat, 2, and 3. Thanks to 45 dexterity, he's able to get it, and that was beautiful.
Nice.
The reason he does the first Darkbeat cast without the Crown of Dusk is so that he puts the first king as low as possible, so he deals the max amount of damage to the cumulative health bar without actually killing the first king.
Yeah. You remember back when they leveled up, Kada mentioned that they got 45 dex for faster cash speeds, and that is the fight that it's most important on, because with anything below 45 dex, you just simply are not fast enough to get the last cast to get 1 king.
Yep. And the second king always spawns after a specific amount of time, so it is always a decent amount of time loss. Oh, Regol pulling me here from from yesterday. Yeah. What are you doing, Regol? This is exactly what I did yesterday. Like, exactly down to the T. He jumped into the railing 3 times, which I managed to pull off as well. This is not a huge time loss. He lost about 9 or 10 seconds to it. Gonna kill Capra, and he's gonna quit out just as Capra dies. You saw the victory screen achieved. Victory achieved screen appear, so that means the boss is dead. However, the game at the time of quit out still considers... I don't know why Regol rolled straight there, but the dogs managed to get out of the way, so that's good. But the game still considers Capra's arena to be unstable ground and puts him right outside of it, even though the boss is dead.
There's actually a neat little out of bounds you can do here, which allows you to skip the next boss's fog gate, but it's actually a bit slower RTA, so both runners are just going to run the normal way today.
Most likely, yeah. I mean, the nice thing about it is that you avoid the crashing jump there. Like, there's the jump that he just did, Regol, that is, around the butcher. There's a small chance that the game's gonna crash, which obviously would be terrible RTA. Yeah. So technically doing the full gate skip and the out of bounds section, while it might be like about 2 seconds slower or so RTA, it completely avoids that. The problem is that it is 2 seconds slower if done perfectly. Meanwhile here, there's nothing special that he has to do.
The one nice thing it does give you is guaranteed RTSR if you do it correctly, which means that if you don't get the slam, which luckily Regol did, you can still 2-shot him, which you wouldn't be able to with no RTSR.
Yeah, you can alternatively, if you know you're not gonna go for the out of bounds, you can alternatively also set up RTSR with full damage on Capra.
So now it's time for the home stretch for Regol. He's gonna make his way to the final boss of the game, Gwyn Lord of Cinder.
Yep, and we are looking at a super clean run so far. Regol definitely living up to his position of being the #1 seeded player in this tournament. what Regal wants to get here is a running attack from the Black Knight to take enough damage to activate RTSR that will allow him to 2-shot Gwyn instead of having to do 3 shots. There we go. He got the running attack. Great stuff. Toggle escaped out of it to not stagger.
I got past the bigger chest knight. So yeah, normally it's pretty trivial to get past him, but he can do a very quick swipe attack, which you need to roll, and it's a little precise, so you can die there sometimes.
Yeah, it's like it requires really quick reaction. Meanwhile, Sass getting a little bit unlucky with the kings. He queued up the Dark Beat already, the Dark Beat cast, and the king was moving out of the way, so it looked really silly. It looked like Sass was just shooting thin air there, but he already queued up the actions.
So yeah, it's basically just one parry left for Regal, and then it'll be GG.
I have seen my fair share of runners fail this parry though, so okay, never mind. Regal got it.
Nice. So GG Regal.
GG to Regal. Yeah, he's gonna get just under 110 RTA, which is what I had predicted. I said that this could happen. And Regal is the one to do it. 109.59. Nice. That is amazing. That is the fastest run that we've had so far, RTA, in the tournament. Most likely in game time as well. It was a really clean run overall. Really good stuff by Regal. I must admit that so far this has been a great race, except for that Artorias death. Both runners have been absolutely on top of their game, and I'm very, very proud of them.
Yeah. Both amazing runners, which is definitely being shown in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Go give them a follow. Twitch.tv/RegoleSlayer and Twitch.tv/Saastutin. That's Saastutin. Okay, Sass not getting a crash either. Like, he himself, even with that Artorias death, which lost him several minutes, he's gonna end up with a very solid time that would have beaten a lot of other runners in this tournament. He's just unlucky that with his seeding in the second round of the winner's bracket, he met up with Regal, who indeed, even though he doesn't like the Slayer part of his name, did slay Sass today and slay the game. Alright, let's see what the in-game time is for Regal. I'm curious about that. 106.04. Nice.
Yeah, that is a top 5 leaderboard time, by the way. Very nice.
Yep. His current PB with this route is 104 flat. But obviously in a tournament setting, he played some things a little bit safer. And some of the RNG wasn't that great. But yeah, that was really good. Meanwhile, Sass also approaching the final boss. It's gonna be close, but he's probably gonna beat his previous round PB, which was in the 114s. So even though he's the loser here today, he's still going to improve his own best attempt here in the tournament. And also, don't forget that this is still upper bracket. We have upper and lower brackets here for this tournament. So Sass is not out yet, and he will have a second life in the lower bracket. If he wants to win the tournament, he can still do it. He would have to run the gauntlet, but obviously anything is possible, and this is how storylines and this is how heroes are made. So we'll have to wait and see for Sass's next adventures. What we won't have to wait and see, though, is the next race, which will be coming up right after this. So when we are done, we're gonna throw the runners in for a little bit of a quick interview, get their thoughts in, and then don't go anywhere, because there's gonna be another race coming up. That was the fast attack, by the way, that Alibaba talked about from the PKG's Black Knights. So we got to see it, actually, and we got to see Sass's young reactions, dodging it very easily.
Good reactions, man.
Sass recently turning 25, I believe. What a young boy. All right, let me actually quickly see what his previous run was. So Sass finished with a 1:14.05, so he's gonna be able to. It's gonna be close. Actually, I'm not sure. I guess he's not gonna beat it, but just barely.
Was it 1:14.05 RTA?
Yes.
Yeah, he's not gonna beat that, unfortunately, with this. But that's okay. Actually, maybe he will.
It's gonna be really close. Yeah, he has it. He has it.
Oh, by
He has
1
it.
second.
Yeah.
Nice.
He split late as well, so yeah, he got it. He improved. I told you that he would improve.
Nice.
I never doubted that statement for a second. That was really good from Sass as well, I must say. Really good performance. That unfortunate death that to Artorias, but it seems like we have both the runners in here, Regal and
Yo!
Sass.
What's up?
Congrats.
And well, first of all,
Thanks.
GG to both of you, and
Apparently
congrats on
it
the win,
was
Regal.
pretty close.
Yeah, it
It
was.
was
Sass,
a
you're,
really, really good race. So just a quick
Sass, you're
summary.
still muted, by the
Essentially,
way.
yeah, it was a really good race, neck and neck, basically all the way until Artorias. You were a little bit ahead at that point, Regal, but
Yeah.
you were kind of trading. Like it wasn't that you were
Yeah,
ahead the
cool.
entire time.
Well,
And
that's
then
actually pretty cool.
unfortunately, yeah, it was super cool to watch. And then unfortunately, Sass died to Artie without having the Lucille
Jeez.
bonfire, so
Yeah.
he had to go back.
I knew we both were going to skip that bonfire because we felt, we generally feel confident skipping it, but, things happen. Small mistake or just boss do the wrong thing and you die and lose 3-4 minutes.
Yeah,
That sucks.
Hello, Sass. Congrats on
Hey,
the
Sass.
great performance, except for the unfortunate error
Yeah.
on Artorias.
Yeah, I guess I got hit by the wrong attack. Couldn't survive that one.
So what exactly
Unfortunately.
happened?
So
I got the I got
actually had to-
the front flip opener, and then I just
Oh.
kind of forgot how to fight Artorias if the fight was before the buff.
Oh,
yeah,
damn.
I was going to ask you, like, why did you not regenerate stamina while he was buffing so you could just do 2 running attacks in a row? You basically
Yeah,
forced yourself
to be honest, I
dodge an
just
extra
haven't
attack.
really practiced it. Like I haven't practiced a long Artorias fight since I did any percent. Or well, like
Okay.
back when Artorias was still in any percent.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I was like, my nerves were racking that whole time. So I was making lots of small mistakes. I can definitely see if Artorias did a flip opening, me just screwing up barely and dying to it. I
Yeah, I
got
was
pretty
thinking
pretty
really
good
hard in the early
RNG.
game.
I got good RNG pretty much the whole time, I would say. Nothing
Yeah,
really bad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we couldn't really tell at all that you were nervous. You played very, very smooth the entire
Oh,
time.
thanks.
Definitely living up to the #1 seed in the tournament.
Thanks.
I wanted to ask, what happened at Capra and why did you decide to cosplay as me from yesterday?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Lower
talking
birds
about
too.
the jump? Dude, when that was happening, I was like, oh, Kat is probably talking about how this exact thing happened to him yesterday. I went back
Yeah,
and watched that run, and it was literally the same crap.
yeah,
Like the
it's
same
so
thing.
funny that you did it 3
Yeah.
times as well. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. I don't know. I just couldn't get over it. I didn't feel like my lineup was that far off. I guess you would understand. Just couldn't
Certainly
get
did.
over it. Couldn't get over it. My menuing was a little shaky because similar to what Mario was saying yesterday, just nerves were racking me the whole time. I also had way too much coffee today, so that's probably not helping. I was well focused, but yeah, my hands got a little shaky at
Yeah,
first.
it worked out for you though.
Yeah,
How about
nothing
you, Sass?
major. I failed the prompt swap at the very beginning at the merchant, stuff like that.
How about you, Sass? How nervous were you coming into this race?
I was really nervous, for the start, basically. That's why I at ONS I failed a few move swaps and had to do a quit out because of that.
Oh,
And
really?
it was,
Damn.
the start of the run is basically just about surviving.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I was pretty happy that I made it deathless to the DLC.
I say my early game was for a race pretty decent. Not obviously not perfect, but I was happy with it. It was like a 17-20 boning out after ONS.
Yeah, I was
it
a
was.
bit behind that because of the quit outs I had to do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Sass unfortunately messed up the move swap before ONS, then had to quit out of the fight. Then got lightning as well, so it wasn't great. But I was really happy that he managed to just pull through.
Nice.
Sas, how did you feel after dying to Artie? And I'm talking about like you managed to finish the run really cleanly after that. How did you manage to like pull yourself together?
I mean, I just assumed because I didn't even know about Regol. I wasn't looking at the chat, so I had no idea
Yeah,
how
me either.
Regol was doing.
Me either.
So I just basically thought that I'm gonna like try to beat my time from the previous round, and
Which you
just
did.
like have a clean finish. Like that was my goal basically.
Mm-hmm.
My
I
goal
knew
was
that I would
to.
most likely lose,
Sorry.
but I knew that it wasn't really up to me. So, or like there was nothing I could do about if Regol had a good run. So I just tried to like play as well as I can, I guess.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
absolutely did.
I respect Sass. Sass is a great runner, so like that was partially why I was like nervous because it's like if any major mistake and it's like it's gonna break one way or the other.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. That like
Yeah.
the number 1 versus number 17 seed doesn't really do this justice.
Yeah.
It was a super close race, except for that one death. Without it, it would have been insanely close. So that was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
I think I would have barely lost maybe, but
Yeah, because that's like
it would have been worth it.
3.5 minute run back, and you finished like a little more than 4 minutes over me. So yeah,
Yeah,
it would
Yep.
have been pretty close.
So
Well, GG.
Regal,
yeah,
you're gonna
GG.
be coming up against Mr. Brood in the next
Oh,
round.
oh no.
How do you feel about your next opponent? And do
I
you
feel
think it'll be
good.
a tougher race, or do you think it'll be easier against Brood?
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Brood will become a god gamer. I'm excited to be just running through all these old boys, Sass and
Yeah,
then
getting all
Brood,
the
and then
old
Kamul's gonna
schoolers.
end up in the tournament somehow.
Wild Kabul appears.
Yeah.
Sass, you're not out yet. You will still have a second life in the losers bracket. You're going to be going up against D9. How do you feel about D9 as your opponent?
I mean, I don't really care about like who I'm going to face in the tournament. I just want to try to beat my own times, I guess.
Yeah, that was kind of how I went into it with this. I wanted to beat Mario's RTA tournament record, so I was focusing on that. Just which like was really just not dying and not making major mistakes. I
Yeah,
figured
pretty
I
much.
could do it, and someone can definitely beat this by just playing a little better. Like I had a few like quit out time losses. Like I screwed up Ivan Seal skip. I messed up the jump on the way to Stray, so just stuff like that. I also
Yeah.
peached a few things. Like last night I died on the Painted World plunge. I was like, all right, I'm not doing this crap. So I decided not to do that
Yeah,
and just
that's
heal
fair.
in Painted World.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
why I was
someone can definitely do it.
wondering whether you were watching chat or not, because you were basically like, even though you said you didn't, you were making like all the right decisions, which was great to see, right? Because in
Yeah.
the position you were in, ahead as you were after Artorias, you didn't take any chances. You used the twin humanities for Bed of Chaos, for example,
Mhm.
and you just played it really, really well. And I'm just super impressed by both of you guys. Great performances all
Thank you,
around.
Kata.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Yeah. And with that, please, guys, don't go anywhere. Me and Alibaba are going to say goodbye, but there's going to be more races coming up right after this. So don't go anywhere, guys.